Oh, you don't know what cold is until you watch your own funeral live streamed from a burn unit. If you've ever had the urge to fake your own death, I can assure you, don't bother. It's a logistical nightmare. But watching your husband do it for you, while you're lying in a burn unit like a microwaved ragdoll, now that is the kind of rage-fueled experience that turns a woman into a strategic sociopath with a vengeance plan. Hi, I'm Clara. At least, I was. These days I go by Evelyn. I live in Portugal, I drink espresso like water, and I give talks to young women on how to recognize financial abuse before they end up like me, accidentally declared dead, while their husband moves in with their assistant and cashes out their entire net worth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind to the day it all burned down, quite literally. I was a corporate attorney. Not the kind that gets arrested in Netflix thrillers, more the negotiate billion-dollar mergers in heels and a chignon type. My husband, Owen, worked in venture capital. He was the sort of man who wore Patagonia vests over dress shirts and said things like synergy unironically. I'd made peace with it. We were that smug, nauseating couple that had joint holiday cards and a shared financial strategy. I was even mentoring my assistant, Tessa, who I thought of as the kind of ambitious girl I used to be. She once cried in the office bathroom after botching a deposition brief, and I bought her a latte. You'll want to remember that later. Now let's talk about the accident. Or, as I now call it, Chapter 1 in the worst group project ever. It was raining. I was driving home from a negotiation that had gone 10 hours too long and eaten my soul like a finance demon. I remember the headlights behind me flaring too close, too fast, and then nothing. When I came to, everything hurt. My body, my face, my pride. A nurse told me I was lucky, which was hilarious, considering I looked like the before photo of a crime scene. I spent 3 weeks in a medically induced fog. By the time I could whisper more than morphine, a very nervous nurse named Janice broke the news. Your husband signed your death certificate. Excuse me, they said you died at the scene. There was a fire. Your dental records were used to confirm, and, your obituary was in the Herald. Reader, I laughed. Which is apparently not what people expect from someone whose identity just got erased by the person she married. He had declared me dead. People. Not missing, not injured. Dead. And while I was bandaged like a human Q-tip in an upstate private hospital, that man was playing grief-stricken widower on social media. The twist? He'd already moved on. Yes, Owen moved in with my assistant, Tessa, who had gone from sad iced latte girl to smug co-founder of a wellness brand almost overnight. They were tagged in a couple's yoga retreat in Bali 3 weeks after my funeral. And don't even get me started on the caption. From grief comes growth. Growth my ass. And while they grew, wealthy, free, deluded, I healed. Quietly, carefully, and with every painful breath, every ruined nerve ending, every scar, I built a plan. Let's just say Owen was about to learn something very important. You should never cash in on someone's death unless you're absolutely sure they're not coming back. Let me tell you something. Nothing slaps harder than waking up from a coma and realizing your husband treated your death like a damn Black Friday deal. He couldn't even wait 72 hours before liquidating my accounts. The man grieved like it was tax season. Once I accepted the reality, burned face, no money, legally dead, and a husband-turned-Disney villain, I did what any rational, slightly unhinged woman would do. I started planning a resurrection that would make Jesus nervous. Step 1. Asset recovery. You see, Owen had been so busy playing sad widower who totally didn't orchestrate a staged car accident that he forgot I'm a corporate attorney, emphasis on corporate. What he didn't know was that years ago back, when I was still idealistic and he was still pretending to love me, I'd opened an offshore account under a trust tied to a client's international holdings. It was legal. Barely. Thanks, Geneva. That trust had enough to get me on my feet without drawing attention. We're talking just under $200,000, not enough to buy back my old life, but enough to set the fuse on the one I was about to light. Step 2. Disappear properly. The nurse, Janice, agreed to keep me listed under a pseudonym, Patient 204B, for privacy reasons. Turns out HIPAA is a wonderful shield when you're fake dead and full of vengeance. She was underpaid and over it, and once I tipped her in straight cash and promised not to sue the hospital into oblivion, she was fully on board. Janice, if you're reading this, you're my ride or die. I transferred to a discreet rehab clinic in the Catskills where rich people go to detox and pretend they're not being investigated by the SEC. Nobody batted an eye at my face bandages or my lack of visitors. Just another woman trying to forget her past while drinking cucumber water and learning how to breathe through the pain. I healed in silence, weeks of physical therapy, skin grafts, and learning to look in a mirror without flinching. The doctors called it recovery. I called it recalibration. Every stretch of tissue, every rebuilt nerve, was rewiring me into something colder, smarter, hungrier. That's when I started phase 3, Evelyn Ray. New name, new ID, new face, thanks to reconstructive surgery I told them was medically necessary, and, let's be honest, partly was. The result? Evelyn Ray was polished, paler, a little colder around the eyes, less like Clara, the corporate darling, and more like the ghost of a woman Owen should have buried deeper. By the time I left the country, Evelyn had a paper trail, a passport, credit history, even a LinkedIn profile, business consultant, forensic finance, specializing in exposure of fraud, asset tracing, and hostile dissolutions. Motto, clean books, clean cuts. You know, just subtle. Meanwhile, Owen and Tessa were living it up like villains in a second-rate Netflix show. She'd launched a wellness brand called Sacred Reset, I know I gagged too, and was selling overpriced sage bundles and crystal-charged hydration kits to the Goop crowd. He was playing investor philanthropist, doing interviews about overcoming loss through innovation. I watched every interview, every product launch, every TEDx talk about transforming grief into purpose. I took notes. I built dossiers. I smiled, because Owen didn't just fake my death. He stole it. But I had plans for him. Delicious, cruel, meticulous plans. Plans that would make karma look like a kindergarten teacher on Xanax. And it started, fittingly, with a DM. Just a short message from Evelyn Ray to the Sacred Reset business email. Hello, I'm interested in a potential investment opportunity. I specialize in financial rescue and brand expansion. I think we'd have a lot to talk about. She replied within the hour, of course. Because Tessa may have stolen my man, but what she really wanted, what she craved, was my mind. And I was more than happy to lend it to her. With interest. You ever watch someone wear your skin like a trophy? That's what it felt like sitting across from Tessa in that painfully beige cafe, sipping overpriced herbal tea while she chirped on about Sacred Reset, the brand she co-founded with my corpse's money and my husband's stolen attention. She didn't recognize me, of course. Evelyn Ray wore tailored blazers, spoke with an accent I'd carefully layered with international ambiguity, and had a face sculpted by skin grafts and resolve. She didn't flinch. She didn't stutter. And she definitely didn't cry in office bathrooms over broken staplers. Tessa looked exactly the same. Perky, pretty, vacant. She spoke in hashtags and startup lingo, practically vibrating with the energy of someone who'd Googled entrepreneur aesthetic and built her identity on Canva. But what she really wanted? Validation. Someone to tell her she was smart enough, strategic enough, not just a pretty side piece who rose from tragedy. And that, my friends, is how you bait a trap. I think your brand has legs, I told her, sipping tea that tasted like regret. but it lacks financial structure. You need someone who understands capital flow and can protect you from predators. She leaned forward like I'd just whispered the secret to eternal youth. Exactly. Owen says we're scaling too fast, but I feel like now is the time. I nodded solemnly, as if I hadn't once watched her wear a dress I loaned her while she flirted with my husband at a company party. We scheduled 3 more meetings. I sent her carefully crafted pitch decks and templates. I even threw in some advice about supply chains and import taxes, just enough to sound useful, but not enough to actually help. Behind the scenes, I filed trademarks in my name for every Sacred Reset product. She never registered them. She thought an LLC protected her. Bless her Etsy-loving heart. Meanwhile, I was gently suggesting they explore international vendors, companies I had connections with, who would, once the dust settled, leak just enough unethical practices to the press to obliterate Sacred Reset's brand credibility. And Owen? He was harder. A seasoned liar. But still vain. Still greedy. Still a creature of habit. He showed up to a Sacred Reset panel talk looking like he'd been styled by a sentient cufflink. He spoke about angel investing like he invented the term and mentioned Clara, me once. Just once. My late wife was brilliant. But sometimes brilliance blinds you to risk. Tessa helped me learn to see things clearly. It took everything in me not to lunge at the stage and throttle him with a fair trade hemp yoga mat. Instead, I smiled, clapped, and slipped him my card afterward. Evelyn Ray, investment consultant. He studied me for a moment. You look familiar. Everyone does, I said, cool as marble. He grinned. The kind of grin that used to mean I'm winning. The kind of grin I'd been waiting to melt off his face. Within a week, I had full access to Sacred Reset's books. I billed myself as a silent partner, a financial strategist, and negotiated a hefty retainer fee for discreet restructuring. I wasn't just back in their lives. I was in their books, in their inboxes, in their strategy meetings. Tessa texted me more than she texted Owen. Owen started sending me confidential memos asking if I could tighten up the spending without upsetting Tessa. I told him I'd handle it. And oh, I would. Because the best part of revenge isn't the explosion. It's building the bomb while they hand you matches. You know that moment in a movie where the villain gives their little speech before the final blow? That smug, drawn-out monologue where they think they've won? Owen had that look the day he called me Evelyn, that is, to discuss some financial restructuring privately. His voice was dripping with performative stress and fake charm, like a used car salesman trying to seduce a loan officer. Sacred Reset's burning through capital, he sighed. Tessa doesn't really understand scale. I need a more assertive hand behind the curtain. Oh, honey, you have no idea how assertive these hands can be. We met at his office, one of those minimalist hellscapes with brushed steel furniture and indoor succulents wilting under LED lights. I wore my sharpest black blazer, hair pinned up, minimal makeup. Enough to be professional, but cold. A little ghostly. He watched me carefully, like a man trying to solve a riddle he didn't write. You really remind me of someone, he murmured. I smiled, slow and toothless. That's probably the guilt. He blinked. I sipped my espresso and moved on. He handed me a USB drive with Sacred Reset's deepest, darkest financial secrets, expense reports, contracts, supplier invoices, investor lists. Everything. He expected me to clean it up, trim the fat, maybe ghostwrite a new pitch deck for a VC round. And of course, keep things between us. Naturally, I downloaded it onto 3 separate encrypted drives before he'd even left the building. I also uploaded a backup to a hidden cloud folder labeled Insurance. Now, before I go further, let me be crystal clear. This wasn't about taking his money. I didn't want the $3.5 million insurance payout he fraudulently cashed in after forging my death certificate. I wanted everything around the money. his career, his reputation, his sense of safety to implode. And to do that, I needed some very specific tools. Tool 1. A friendly phone call to the SEC. There's nothing quite as beautiful as regulatory vengeance. I filed an anonymous tip, well, Evelyn did, citing possible investor fraud, forged expense reports, and insider trading involving Owen's other investments. I attached the prettiest little PDF compilation you've ever seen, screenshots, flagged invoices, suspect timestamps. A financial crime brunch buffet. 2 weeks later, the Securities and Exchange Commission opened an investigation. Quietly, of course. They always do it quiet at first. Like termites in the walls. You never notice until the beams collapse. Tool 2. Shell game shenanigans. I created 3 shell companies overseas, technically legal, morally bankrupt, and deliciously confusing. Using one, I bought Sacred Reset's crystal supplier out from under them and started quietly jacking up their wholesale prices. Using another, I funneled consulting fees from their account to mine. Using the third, I bought their web domain. Yup. I owned sacredreset.com for 36 hours before Tessa called me in tears because the website was redirecting to a landing page that said, "Authenticity can't be bought, but karma always collects." Don't worry, I gave it back. Eventually. Wouldn't want to tip my hand too soon. Tool 3. The nuclear option. Documentation. The most damning piece? A video file I found in one of Owen's backups, tucked deep in a folder labeled archive_personal_do_not_delete. It was from the hospital parking lot. A security cam, grainy but clear. Owen, standing beside a man with a clipboard and a Navy windbreaker, the same guy who was listed as the EMT that declared me dead at the scene. They were shaking hands. I slowed the footage. I looped it. I labeled it Exhibit A. Then I called my hacker friend, Nathan, bless his ethically flexible soul, and asked him to scrub the video's metadata. I wanted it traceable, but not to me. We uploaded it to a burner Reddit account and tagged a few watchdog journalists. The headline? Corporate heiress declared dead. Husband seen bribing first responder days before $3.5 million insurance payout. I watched it go viral with a glass of Bordeaux in one hand and a bowl of popcorn in the other. In 12 hours, the clip had 800,000 views. In 24 hours, Owen's name was trending. In 48, every investor he'd ever courted was ghosting him. Tessa called me the next day, sobbing. He's losing it. The board wants answers. The IRS froze our accounts. Evelyn, what do I do? I took a long, slow breath. You burn the sage, I said, and pray. Then I hung up. Because the fuse was lit. The charges were stacked. And the blast was going to be beautiful. There's a very specific sound I wish I could bottle and sell. The dead silence that hits a phone line when someone realizes their world is unraveling. I got that silence at 2:14 p.m. on a Thursday when Owen, once my husband, now my slow-cooked entree of vengeance, called me in a complete panic. I don't know what the hell's happening, he barked into the phone. The board froze my access. The press is calling. Someone leaked financials. We've been blacklisted from 2 VCs overnight. What did you send them, Evelyn? There it is. That broken, breathless panic. That little flutter in the voice when a man who's built his career on manipulation finally runs out of pawns. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to savor it. The moment. The weight of it. Like an expensive wine you let sit on your tongue before swallowing it whole. Evelyn, he repeated, voice sharp now, trying to regain control. This isn't a game. Oh, sweetie. This has never been a game. This was a reckoning. Let me rewind 48 hours. After the video of Owen in the hospital parking lot with Mr. Totally Not a Bribed EMT hit Reddit, The press jumped on it like sharks smelling blood in a yacht marina. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was a financial crime bombshell wrapped in a true crime sob story. Within a day, a journalist from Business Insider reached out to the anonymous source. That source, of course, was me, masquerading as an activist investor who believed the truth should come out. We had a phone call. I let my voice shake just enough to sound credible. I didn't want to get involved but couldn't stay silent. The article went live that night. Venture capital star accused of faking wife's death for $3.5 million insurance scam. Insiders say Sacred Reset co-founder was seen celebrating with new partner weeks after wife's funeral. It included screenshots, quotes, the now infamous parking lot footage. They even found a guest from our funeral who admitted on record the whole thing felt staged. He didn't cry once. Reddit went feral. Hashtag Justice for Clara trended on Twitter. Someone made a TikTok series about it. True crime podcasts were already scheduling mini episodes. And Owen? He was drowning in it. Now, about Tessa. Let's just say she broke faster than a gas station wine glass. The same day the article dropped, I sent her a neat little packet titled, Urgent, Financial Exposure and Legal Liability. Inside, all the Sacred Reset purchases made on Clara Devine's posthumous bank accounts. Screenshots of Tessa approving forged invoices. Evidence that she knew about the insurance payout. And a fake, but extremely convincing, email from Owen to his lawyer. Let's say Tessa signed the transfers. She's disposable if this gets ugly. The email wasn't real, but the fear it created? Oh, that was authentic. She cracked within hours. Her lawyer scheduled a meeting with federal investigators. She agreed to fully cooperate in exchange for immunity. I knew she'd flip. She didn't have the spine to carry her own secret, let alone mine. The feds were already circling. My tip had done the job. Tessa just threw chum in the water. And then came the cherry on top, the family estate. Owen had moved into my parents' summer house, left to me in their will. Remember, I was legally dead. And the transfer of that property? Fraudulent, of course. I filed to reclaim it under my real name, Clara Devine, and surprise. A court date was set. So I did what any dead woman would do. I showed up. No veil. No theatrics. Just me, in a black suit, with my new face, new voice, and old documents. The look on Owen's face when I stepped into that courtroom? He turned gray. Like he'd seen a ghost. Because he had. The judge asked me to confirm my identity. I did. Then I looked Owen dead in the eye and said, "You should have made sure the casket was closed." When the judge ruled in my favor and restored all legal assets under my living status, Owen stood there like a statue, except statues don't sweat through their designer suits. And as I left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. One asked, "Clara, is there anything you want to say to your husband?" I paused. Then I smiled for the first time in months and said, "Just this. Some people fake grief. I don't have to." Do you know how many years I spent lying awake at night next to a man who treated my ambition like it was an inconvenience? Who told me I was intense, too much, not nurturing enough, as if having a 98% win rate in corporate litigation made me unfit for emotional connection. Too many. But on the day Owen lost everything, I slept like I had been lullabied by angels, tucked in by karma, and spooned by poetic justice. But let me tell you how we got there. It started at exactly 9:37 a.m. with the foreclosure notice. The estate, my parents' summer homes that Owen so kindly inherited through fraudulent documents while I was presumed dead, was officially returned to me in probate court. Turns out, when you sign legal transfer documents under someone else's name while they're still breathing, the law takes issue. What made it sweeter? I waited exactly 24 hours after the ruling to file a separate claim of trespassing and unlawful occupation. You see, I knew he was still living there. The sheriff showed up while Owen was halfway through a Zoom call with an investor trying to salvage what was left of his portfolio. Imagine being mid-pitch, begging someone to throw a lifeline to your failing brand, and then hearing, "Mr. Becker? We're here to escort you off the premises. This property has been legally reclaimed." I wish I had been there to see his face. Actually, scratch that. I was. The new caretaker I hired? She filmed the entire thing on her phone. Sent me the footage like a bedtime story. There he was, in all his Patagonia-vested glory, sputtering legal jargon at a sheriff who couldn't have cared less. Tess's leftover skincare products still on the bathroom counter. One of my old college sweatshirts stuffed under his arm as he tried to carry out what few personal items he could grab in the 5 minutes they gave him. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "This is a misunderstanding. That house was mine." I imagine the sheriff blinking and replying something like, "No, sir. It belonged to your very alive wife." By 11 a.m., the bank accounts were frozen. Federal investigators were already halfway through interviews with Sacred Reset employees. Tessa, now cooperating like her freedom depended on it, spoiler, it did, had handed over every transaction, every suspicious transfer, every forged document, many of which were digitally signed with Owen's credentials. The final nail? A forensic accountant. Yes, I hired one. Don't play with me. Trace the $3.5 million insurance payout through 6 shell companies, all of which led back to a Cayman account in his name. And thanks to a little technical error in his filings, he hadn't reported any of it on his taxes. Tax fraud, wire fraud, insurance fraud, identity fraud. If you're going to kill your wife for the money, maybe don't leave a breadcrumb trail that looks like a damn croissant factory. By 2:15 p.m., his arrest warrant was issued. The feds wanted to build a perfect case, so they didn't arrest him in his office or on the street. They waited until he walked into a press conference. He was trying to clear the air, regain the narrative. He had a speech prepared, I'm sure. Something tearful, poetic, narcissistic. They cuffed him on stage. There's a photo. Owen in handcuffs, mouth slightly open, as if he was still trying to charm his way out of it. Behind him, the Sacred Reset banner fluttering ironically. Caption: Wellness CEO arrested in alleged fake death and fraud scheme. And me? I made soup. Tomato basil. Grilled cheese on the side. Extra sharp cheddar. I curled up in my linen sheets in my Lisbon apartment, the one with the sea view, the one I paid for in cash, and opened the video of his arrest for the 5th time that day. Then I turned off my phone, fluffed my pillow, and slept through the night like I hadn't done in years. No racing heart. Number 3 a.m. anxiety spirals. Just peace. Because for the first time since Owen tried to erase me, I had done something better than survive. I ended him. Closure is a funny thing. People like to talk about it in soft, grief therapy tones, like it's something you find at the bottom of a crystal or after a good ugly cry. That's cute. But let me tell you what closure actually looks like. It's walking into a courtroom in a tailored black dress with your head held high while the man who tried to erase you stares at you like he's seen a ghost and realizes it's not going away this time. It's not forgiveness. It's a lawsuit. Specifically, Clara Devine versus Owen Becker for fraud, wrongful death declaration, emotional distress, theft, and let's not forget intentional infliction of bodily harm since he technically arranged the accident that almost killed me. Yup, we're going full final boss. Let's rewind to the legal strategy. After Owen was arrested and charged on multiple counts of insurance fraud, wire fraud, and falsifying a death certificate, honestly, a mouthful even for me, I sat down with the legal team, my legal team. And I mean top tier. Not that first free consultation nonsense. These were sharks who read law books for fun and could smell weakness like blood in a swimming pool. I don't just want him convicted, I said, laying my documents on the conference table. I want him financially ruined. I want him to choke on the cost of every decision he made while I was in a coma. We filed for civil damages immediately. The demand? $3.5 million, the full amount of the life insurance he wrongfully claimed, plus legal fees, punitive damages, asset forfeiture, and oh yes, public apology. Why the apology, you ask? Because I wanted it on the record. I wanted a judge to watch this man admit what he did to me. And I wanted that video to live forever on the internet next to his mugshot and his bullshit TEDx talk about loss and resilience. At the hearing, he tried to play victim. His lawyer claimed emotional instability, miscommunication, and, get this, delayed grief response. Apparently, fraud is just what happens when you miss your wife too much and accidentally commit a series of felony crimes. My attorney nearly laughed out loud. Then we presented our evidence. Medical records showing I was alive during the insurance claim. Emails from Owen confirming knowledge of my hospitalization. Video footage of him bribing the EMT who pronounced me dead. Testimony from Tessa stating he told her, quote, "It's not murder if she was probably going to die anyway." Probably going to die anyway. Let's all pause and let the audacity of that sentence settle. The judge was stone-faced. Then came my turn. I stood, looked Owen dead in the eyes. I remember the sound of your voice in my head while I was lying in that hospital bed. The nurse would read me your texts aloud, even when I couldn't speak. You said you loved me, that you were planning the funeral with a heavy heart. I stepped forward. You were planning the payout, Owen, not the funeral. His face went blank. His lawyer looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. I almost died, I said. But I didn't. Which is unfortunate for you. The judge ruled in my favor. $3.5 million in damages. Immediate liquidation of remaining assets. Restitution to be paid within 90 days. He has exactly $0 left. The house is gone. The accounts are frozen. His investment firm? Dissolved. And Sacred Reset? Please. That brand was DOA after Tessa's confession videos hit TikTok. Owen was left with nothing but a public defender, a tarnished name, and the knowledge that the woman he tried to kill now legally owns everything he built on her bones. And the apology? He had to read it aloud. In court. On camera. To Clara Devine, whom I deeply wronged, I apologize for my actions, my betrayal, and my attempts to benefit from her presumed death. I accept full responsibility for the pain I caused. I didn't cry. I smiled. That night, I opened a bottle of champagne. Vintage. Expensive. Paid for with his money. I poured a glass, took a long sip, and toasted the ceiling. To closure. And compound interest. There's this moment, after revenge, where everything goes quiet. Not in a creepy horror movie way. No ominous creaks or flickering lights. Just a strange, weightless silence. Like your body's waiting for the other shoe to drop, but there are no more shoes. Just your own 2 feet, finally grounded. I woke up the morning after the court ruling to birdsong and sunlight and an email notification with the subject line. Transfer confirmation, $3,500,000. I laughed. Full belly laugh. Like a lunatic in silk pajamas with croissants in the oven and blood on her resume. That money? It wasn't justice. It wasn't healing. But it was a receipt. A receipt for every night I woke up screaming in a hospital bed with my face wrapped like a horror prop. For every second Owen smiled for the camera while I lay unnamed in a burn unit. For every time I begged him silently to come for me, and he didn't. And now? I was alive. Legally. Publicly. Fully. And I was about to reinvent myself like only a woman who's been buried alive can. Let's start with the basics. Name, identity, future. Clara Devine was back on record. The world knew it. But I'd outgrown her in the fire. Clara was careful, polished, predictable. Evelyn Ray? She was dangerous, strategic, utterly unbothered by rules. So I merged the two. I kept Evelyn as my public professional identity. The name had power now. Reputation. She'd become a minor celebrity among online communities obsessed with true crime, legal drama, and women who refused to stay buried. Oh, and Reddit? Ate it up. Someone made a Justice for Clara subreddit. There's fan art. There's merch. There's a woman in Ohio with a mug that says, "Dead wife says relax." I wish I were joking, but let's talk about the rebuild. I took part of the settlement money and started a consultancy. Rayline Advisory, a boutique firm specializing in financial recovery for women escaping abusive or coercive financial relationships. Our tagline? We get your money back, and maybe your spine, too. Our first 10 clients were referrals from domestic violence shelters. The next 10 came from women who'd heard my story and wanted help untangling themselves from greedy husbands, lying fiancés, and predatory business partners. I didn't just give them legal aid. I taught them how to build walls out of bank statements, how to track a lie through a paper trail, how to stop apologizing for existing. I watched them light up, one by one. And I thought, Owen wanted me dead. But he gave birth to a damn army. Oh, and Tessa? She vanished from the public eye after her plea deal. Deleted socials. Closed the brand. Rumor has it she's somewhere in the Midwest, working at a spa and attending therapy. She sent me a letter once. Handwritten. No return address. I didn't know how to say I was sorry and not sound pathetic. I didn't know what he was capable of. But I know what I am now. And I hope, one day, you'll believe I was more than what I became with him. I didn't reply. But I didn't burn the letter, either. Some wounds are better left clean than cauterized. And Owen? Oh, he's in prison. Not minimum security. No country club. He cried at sentencing, actual tears this time, and asked the judge for leniency based on mental strain. The judge looked unimpressed and gave him 8 years, with a possibility for parole at 5. By the time he gets out, the world won't remember him as a founder or innovator. He'll be the guy who faked his wife's death and got played by a woman he thought was gone. A ghost that built an empire while he rotted. I bought a new place. Ocean View. Lisbon. It's warm, bright, full of light and plants and art that makes no sense, but makes me feel. There's a framed photo on the mantle, me, standing in front of a burned-out car, middle finger up, lips curled into a smile. It's photoshopped, obviously. But the energy? Authentic. Every now and then, someone recognizes me. At a bookstore. At a panel. They ask, "Are you that woman?" And I say, "No. I'm this woman." And that's all they need to know. Here's a fun fact they don't tell you in law school. The world adores a comeback story, right up until it realizes the woman doesn't want her old seat back. She wants the damn table, and maybe the deeds to the building, too. I didn't come back to reclaim what was mine. I came back to build something that no one could ever steal from me again. And along the way, I discovered something far more powerful than revenge. I found something close to royalty. Not the tiara and ball gown kind, but the kind that walks into a room and owns it with a glance. That's what happens when you stop playing by the rules that were written to keep you small. Let me explain how I used the pieces of the life they tried to bury me with, to build a damn throne. 1. I became the thing they feared most, untouchable. You know what keeps certain men up at night? A woman who no longer needs their money, their approval, or their silence. The moment my story broke, I became a cautionary tale. But not the kind whispered behind closed doors, the kind spoken aloud, with reverence. My inbox filled with press inquiries. Podcasts. Publishers. Hollywood. One woman asked to option my story for a limited series. I told her only if I could personally approve the casting of Owen. Spoiler, we went with someone shorter than he was in real life. Petty? Yes. Delicious? Also yes. But I didn't just cash in on the story. I used the spotlight to shine on others like me. I launched a fund, the Clara Grant, for women rebuilding their lives after financial abuse. The application asks one question. When did you realize you were worth saving? Hundreds of answers. All of them different. All of them real. Some days I cry reading them. Most days, I burn with pride. 2. I turned my trauma into armor and wore it everywhere. I used to think strength was stoicism. That surviving quietly made me dignified. Now, I wear my story like a designer coat. Tailored. Expensive. Measured by the hell I paid to stitch it together. People ask me how I found the strength to come back. I didn't. I created it. One shattered bone, one therapy session, one spreadsheet of financial ruin at a time. Strength wasn't waking up one day and feeling okay. It was choosing over and over not to let his betrayal become my identity. I still have the scars, literal and otherwise. But now they feel like hieroglyphs. A secret language only survivors know how to read. 3. I didn't forgive. And that's okay. Let's talk about the F word. No, not that one. Forgiveness. Everyone seems obsessed with it. Like you have to reach that sacred state of absolution to qualify as healed. But here's the truth. I didn't forgive Owen. I didn't even try. He didn't deserve forgiveness. He deserved consequences. And he got them. What I did do was let go of the rage that used to claw at my chest like a second heartbeat. Not because he earned peace, but because I did. I replaced vengeance with purpose. I replaced obsession with expansion. And every time I see another woman rise from the wreckage with fire in her eyes, I think, we are no longer asking for justice. We are writing it. 1 year after the court case closed, I returned to the courthouse, not for a hearing, but for a keynote. They asked me to speak on resilience in the face of betrayal. I stood on the same floor where I'd watched my ex-husband lose everything, looked out at a sea of women and men who came to hear my voice and said, "They built my coffin too early. I used the wood for my throne. And now I'm the one writing the story." Afterward, someone approached me, a nervous intern, couldn't have been more than 22, clutching a copy of the Forbes Women issue I'd been featured in. She said, "Do you think it's too late for someone like me to start over?" I took her hand. "No," I said. "You're right on time. You don't really realize how much life you've missed until you start living it on your own terms." I don't mean brunch with mimosas or dramatic haircuts after a breakup. I mean the kind of life that feels like air after suffocation. The kind where you no longer shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. The kind of life that no man, no fraud, no betrayal could ever touch again. Because here's the truth. He didn't just try to kill me. He tried to erase me. And I didn't just survive. I rewrote everything he thought he'd stolen. Let's talk about Owen. Or rather, let's close the book on him. He's in year 2 of his sentence. No parole yet. Last I heard, he's in prison therapy, working on empathy and accepting accountability. Cute. Someone on Reddit said he got clocked by a guy half his size for trying to pitch a blockchain investment strategy in the rec yard. I didn't fact check it, but the mental image alone was worth a toast. And Tessa? She stayed out of prison, but her face is now synonymous with phrases like fraudulent wellness and pyramid scheme starter pack. She tried to rebrand anonymously on Instagram last month, new name, new vibe. But people recognized her crystal arrangement from a viral TikTok and roasted her back into digital oblivion. Me? I stayed silent. Because revenge isn't about dragging someone forever. It's about leaving them so far behind, they couldn't catch up even if they ran through time. I started traveling. Lisbon, then Rome, then Tokyo. I sat in cafes with strong coffee and no expectations. I wrote. I listened. I rebuilt my soul without needing anyone's permission. I said yes to things I never would have before. Yes to painting lessons. Yes to dancing barefoot at midnight. Yes to a stranger's hand at a dinner party who didn't know my past and didn't ask. Eventually, I even said yes to love. But not the kind that owns or devours or reshapes you. The kind that grows beside you. The kind that doesn't panic when you say, I need to disappear for a while. The kind that doesn't need saving and doesn't ask to be saved. The kind that knew my scars weren't damage, they were architecture. Some nights, I still dream of the fire. The car. The silence. The way everything went black. But in the dream, I always wake up standing. Not broken. Not lost. Alive. And sometimes I laugh, even in sleep. Because that's the part Owen never understood. You can fake a death. You can forge a document. You can steal a name. But you cannot kill a woman who knows how to come back from nothing. You cannot bury a woman who has learned to breathe underground. So, if you're reading this and wondering if you can come back from heartbreak, from betrayal, from ruin, let me leave you with this. They built my grave with bare hands. I planted a garden there. And when it bloomed, I built a palace.